Yes, good evening, this is Dr. Che. This is on chapter 13, which is how to make yourself thrive, to make others thrive. There is no other. In non-selective survival, we talk about incrementation of a life safety first as minimum, provision of basic needs for all as secondary, that is on a common area associated with others on a larger scope, such as for instance use of common water needs to be pure, that water needs to be clean so that everybody can use it. Common to all, for instance, forestry needs to be available for picking up berries and things like that, and use of it for all, free of pesticides, common and needs to be done. And things like that are first non-selective survival, and incrementation in own well-being, in well-being of others, goes up to non-selective thriving, which means I am happy and everybody else is, there is no other, and we can rest, meaning work acquires different properties. Work acquires perfectioning things, as well as love declaration to win over an ideal mating partner, and in reciprocity accept such as well, which is very different, because then all of skills are useful to prove self as a potential life partner as well as potential parent, and vice versa. And proving such is in who loves who the most, and who most to the dot corresponds to the other in love. And that is first that I would like to start with in this chapter, with what I have discovered driving in Malibu post fires, which is what I denominated actually I would call it an algorithm. I also discovered in Acoma City. In Acoma City, when I was a target, and it was very unpleasant, remote target. I've never experienced that before, and that was very painful. I didn't know how to get out of it, and I was sent to deity, because usually in such situations monastics would help. In this situation, monastic would say, "May God help you. I don't know what to do anymore before that." And you see, that is another time when it seems that the deity fails, and so that comes down down to establishment of an algorithm, that is an emergency algorithm, as an outcome of survival learning. And I want you to learn that it is possible to obtain through survival training, which I am writing a grant to obtain to be able to do, that has nothing to do with infliction of pain, but facing real situations and realization that own body is not only credible at all times in all of its dimensions, but also other persons' bodies are as credible for themselves. And not only that, for self, when one's own body exhausted all of potential, other persons are credible as self, also other animals. Animal can save you, a mosquito can save you, a wolf can save you, any person, an unknown one, can save you. And so that algorithm is for persons especially of faith. Losing faith, the dark night of the soul, is common when we are tortured, exposed to extreme of pains of unknown origins, like in remote torture or remote harassment, as well as when it comes to failure of prayers during those situations in which nothing actually helped. And that, prior to that, remembering that it was reliable, now it is not, leads to doubt in God, and diagnosing that often as sick. Doubting as I've imagined God didn't help me, God didn't exist, or Buddha, whichever that is, or Jesus, that person's belief. So to accommodate that, because that happens many times in life, you need to understand the premises that I've mentioned before. God created human to his own image, which means you and I and everybody else in situation of being alone and being left in pain or in life threat We are as powerful as God to self, each of us. And that in self-esteem is important at all times to know and hold in mind for self and for others. When persons refuse help, respect it. When you are in such a situation, do not pray. When prayers fail, I mean, you may, but if it fails, if it's not working, remember, it is because God is busy and left. And so that is why God also does not have body. That is why you are God for self, and you need to do the maximum to help yourself. And so that's first, in algorithm in ER. First we said well, in a field, informed persons call 911, right? Well, here remember, you are maximum to self, and you are the best source of information on self first, and you can do anything to help self instead of waiting or blaming others or praying in emergency situation or long term. Secondarily, any person who arrives and use your own judgment based on instinct, if you are starting to fail, not before. Never delegate, because if you delegate, that is when those who have read about it, the autopilot, which means lowering of own capacity and doing things in non-awareness, kicks in. So hold in authority, no one, God included. When you start to feel exhausting your own capacity, then whoever arrives, hold that person as God or animal, whoever can help you. And until that person proves, or animal, or whatever that is, to be failing you, move on to the next opportunity or the next person. And include in that as ultimate solution when prayers are failing, God. And remember, eternal life is in body. Jesus said, I am life, meaning I am alive, and like Jie in 9 Immortals, it means that he was given life, and he has method that says, if you do not kill, you will forever live in own body and regenerate. If you treat and love self as same as others, you will live forever. If you hold God for more, being busy, more, meaning more means has more responsibility, you're not quite as important. Like, for example, a president of Uganda. The president of Uganda is not here, he's somewhere else. Well, I cannot, even though he's more important than I am in function, say, oh, president of Uganda is more important than all persons that are around me and I. However, that person cannot arrive like God, because in the same as God, he is or she is not here. That is an example. You can be president of China, Xi, for example, and or the United States. And so those are examples of the algorithm. So first self, hold self as God until you exhausted your capacity. Then hold any other who, based on instinct, gives you an opportunity to be free of pain, to survive. Or opportunity, and remember, hold survival as not the option, alternate to death, but as only option at all times. It comes instinctively. When you're trapped, you have to, and that is a knowledge that comes from empirical experience. When you experienced pain that exceeded 10 out of 10 being worst pain in life, that 10 for long enough, and you lost all hope, that is when wishing to be dead occurs. That is not depression. Depression is when, because depression is pain, it is wishing to be dead because it feels bad, but it is knowing that it is something that will pass eventually. So feeling bad and seeking some sort of help, that is different. Pain and torture, when you lost hope, is when you feel like the day will come and pain will be inflicted again, and so you beg to be dead, and that's different, very different. And so you see that you have to always know, when you are on your own, you have to exceed own capacity, and then whoever it is, even out of, for instance, you're trapped in a foreign country, you traveled to some different place, and person, or in own country, suddenly persons turned against you in your own environment. you have to hold a person who is next to you based on your own judgment as the God that will provide you survival if you learn how to use that person. So any person, any animal can grant it. And you try. You never assume if one person failed that the other one, even the same acting, the same dress, that the other one will not provide you help. And so that is how you befriend persons often or animals, and you will find solution. And when it is that miracles happen, when you exhaust all of opportunities and you are left with prayer, but it includes self. So I have to underline to it. Again, I will write that grant because I have 7 days left, and I have one version of it for a training for survival, a camp on a land that I want money to be able to purchase. The realization of self not being allowed to delegate to any other supervisors, most respected, like in the song that I forgot the person that enumerates all of authorities, and also family and God and all of others. You cannot delegate, because the moment you delegate, you will fall into, for instance, if you harmed, hemorrhagic shock, for instance, and you will not be able to continue. And so that is why you do not delegate, like in the movies. You hold self for God, as if God was an absent godfather who loves you very much but is absent. When you exhausted self, then you seek whoever is next, and you give all the faith you have in the next, as if self. And then, based on judgment, of course, if you see in that danger a person tries to harm you, well, no. But if not, you do that. A child, a man, a woman, a foreigner, whoever that is, or an animal can save you. And then, next to it is God. And then you face that dilemma. Will God help you? And the answer is yes. Faith in God is in God we trust. God will help you. However, you may be given choice in situations like that. Death or staying alive. But it is usually for all. It's not only for accomplished monks or persons like that, or nuns. It's for all. The choice consists of you can die, or you can come back and stay alive, with all the consequences of both. And so that is when you have choice, and God will appear when there's no window of opportunity, and you as self, you exhausted everything you had. It is not a luxury, it happens to all, and you have to understand that dying cannot harm even one other, unless that one other waved persistently in contact with you, and then waving such, you will harm that person. So you have to grant non-forgiveness to that person. And so that will be not God, that will be you who will be judging that person. I know that it sounds abstract, but we learn that in Buddhism, in meditation, and I've experienced that when I was confronted with a dying person, starting with my father. Persons appear before dying, even when they are present in remote locations, to evoke in others, in loved ones who are estranged, memory of good and bad deeds, and then to evoke either love or non-forgiveness. And not God, but the persons or animals grant that forgiveness and possibility to achieve, for instance, annihilation, life after death, which some consider nirvana, which is dwelling like in winds, similar to that. And you need to know, not always that it is life, because sometimes persons stay and dwell as a soul or remaining energy, and that is because persons have more happiness still pending and didn't do maximum being alive in body. And so that is, again, to repeat, self as God you will hold, because God is absent and is more important than you. God you will hold for all, and for all therefore self less important and God busy. Any other you will hold as God when self starts to failing. When any other fails then and you exhausted all window of opportunities, you will face choice in faith in God. Be it dead because you're suffering, dead because you're tired and exhausted your mission, or being eternal life as in the proper understanding that makes sense in medicine of Christianity. Eternal life being alive and come back and you will regenerate. Keep that in mind, and remember, all patients as well and all clients, if police, are like that. In God we trust.